everybody. How are you today? I decided that today's recipe was going to be one of the Stevenson family favorites. We love to have this recipe. It's a recipe that my students and I have put in our make and take meals in the past because it freezes really, really well and it reheats really, really well, and it is a total crowd pleaser. This is a recipe that I started making when our kids were really, really small. Now they're 18 and 21, and it just seems to be that go-to. It's very comforting. It's really yummy meal. So hopefully you guys like it, and I would love to see if you try it at some point in time. I'm going to put the recipe up with it when I put it on YouTube as well as Facebook and for my students. But I did want to do our baked chicken cheese enchiladas today. So for those of you that have had them before, from the recipe that I tend to use, hopefully this is like, whoa, this is great, I'll be able to make it. And I hope you try it at home yourselves. So a few things that you need to have ready to go for this. And again, as with a lot of my recipes, you can really sub in things that you want. You can make this more spicy if you want. I'll tell you how to do that. You can actually make it more creamy if you want. I'm definitely doing that because I like these to be really creamy chicken cheese enchiladas. So the first thing that you're going to need is some chicken, obviously. I was able to get some chicken, and I actually cooked it myself. What I did was I put it in a pan. I can show you over here. And then I put it in with some bone broth. If you have some stock, you can use that too. And if you don't have either one of those things, it's not a big deal. You can boil it up in water. Really not a big deal either way. Again, I used bone broth today. I love having bone broth around the house. This, I got a case of it actually, I think at BJ's Warehouse. This is really good if you're kind of feeling under the weather. It's a gray day like this. You can actually just heat this up and drink it out of a mug, and it's really super yummy, makes you feel better. I kind of swear by it. If I'm starting to feel like I'm coming down with something, I take it just to make sure that I am hydrating myself with something that's got a lot of good nutrients in it. So I cooked the chicken in the bone broth, but again, you can use water, you can use stock, whatever it is, as long as it's cooked in a liquid. And if you're like, oh, that's one more step and I'm just not gonna do this recipe because of that, use a rotisserie chicken. I'm here to tell you that I will, when I'm in school, when I'm working full-time, and when my husband is working full-time, and we're in the middle of a week and we really want these things, I've used this shortcut countless times. If you grab a rotisserie chicken and you just shred it up, so you're taking 2 forks and you put it down and you just do a shredding motion. The other way, it really works well with rotisserie chickens to do that, but with this chicken that I just cooked, I actually wound up chopping it up a little bit, and it really, really works well that way too. Just make sure that you have it in bite-sized pieces because you want the flavor of chicken in there, but you don't really want like a huge chunk of chicken to chew on. It's just not all that good. So that is our chicken. Some of the other things that you're going to need, you are going to need some salsa. And I'm just using a prepared salsa. You can obviously, if you make your own, you can use that too. But I like to have a prepared salsa for this because you actually need to line the bottom of the pan with it, and you need to put some over top as well as in the middle. So it's really a big, large amount that you need, at least the way I do them. So I would get at least 1 large jar of it. Maybe good to have 2. It's up to you. Your favorite salsa. If you like Southwest salsa, great. If you like tomatillo salsa, you could use that too. Although I do suggest using some red salsa with it, just for best results. You're going to need to make this creamy. So get some sour cream. And I'm going to make mine extra creamy, so I'm going to go a little bit over with my sour cream. You're going to need some cream cheese. Yes. The recipe calls for 4 ounces, but I'm going to use a full 8. And it's really good if you have all of your creamy stuff at room temperature before you put it in, so that it just mixes up a little bit more easily. Some of the other things we are going to have, I'm just using frozen corn for this. If you have a can of corn, totally fine. Just use it, drain it, and then put it in, and it'll be good to go. So I've actually got this corn. It could go in frozen. It's going to go in the oven anyway. So it's not that big of a deal either way. You want to use, if you want to use the can or you want to use frozen. I did bring mine to room temperature. I just like it better, but you could put it in frozen if you wanted to. Cheese. Now, cheese is going to be really up to your taste. You can use anything from just a shredded cheddar. You could use some spicier cheese. I'm actually trying this one that I found at Harris Teeter. It's a 3-pepper shredded blend. Any kind of Mexican cheese blend would be fine. It could be a thin blend. You can see how that's thin. I just found this today. This is actually a thick cut Mexican blend. This I think is going to look really cool up on top of it. So that's what I'm going to put on top. It says that you need 2 cups, which is equal to 1 bag. But if you're like me and you're a cheeseaholic, you're going to want more. So I absolutely would make sure that you have plenty for it. Okay, you're also going to need some green onion, and you're going to need your green onion chopped up, looking a little bit like this. So how you would do that is you're going to get your green onions, scallions, you can call them whatever you want. But here's a little lesson that I learned when I was in culinary school, and I'll show you how to do this in a second. These actually grow in the wild as well, although I don't know that I would trust it just in our area unless I lived in an area. I grew them in my own garden. I wouldn't just go outside and start pulling some onion grass out of the ground. But they grow up, and you usually only see this part. And the really good flavor, you want to take it, anything that's where the Y is and below, you can go a little up past the Y. I call it the Y. I think it looks a little bit like a Y there. You can use that all, and it's really good to have in your recipes. So when you do this, you're going to cut off the root, and you're going to go into a claw like this. Make sure you're keeping the front of your fingers back, tucking your thumb back in, and then you just go have at it. You can see I've got my vegetable, the green cutting board, right up over top of my other cutting board that I'm just, have here for demo. I really do want to keep that, I want to keep it separate. Cool. So I've got my green onions here. They don't have to be perfect. The more perfect ones that look like this, I might want to save to put up on top because we're going to decorate with them too. But we're going to put this aside. You need about 4 of these. I like a little bit on top, so I really wouldn't worry if you have a few extra. You should be totally fine with it. Okay, so we had our green onions, we got our corn, we got our cream cheese. Now we're going to go into some spices, and this is where you can get creative with it. Okay, sometimes, again, I'm in a pinch, and sometimes I don't have things around the house. Now, I'm very fortunate that I was able to find what I needed, but the first thing I'm going to tell you is if you are in a pinch and you have no spices, no oregano, no cayenne, and no ground cumin, this is your go-to. Taco seasoning works really well in this. Just watch how hot you want it. What you would do is you would just take the measurements that are going to be in this recipe here. I think it is a 1/4 teaspoon of cumin, and it is a 1/4 teaspoon of oregano, and then it's a 1/2 teaspoon of cumin, 1/4 of oregano, and 1/4 of cayenne. You can kind of play with that, but really you're looking to have about 2 teaspoons total of flavor. Unless you want to really pop that flavor, then you would actually add a little bit more. So no matter what it is, roughly around 2 teaspoons of seasoning is where you're going. But if you don't have any of the other individual seasonings like cumin, ground cumin, or cayenne, or oregano, you can really use taco seasoning without a big problem. Now, somebody had asked me at one point in time with this, like, oh, could you use chili powder? Yes. Just again, watch your heat. And especially if you're going to use chili powder, watch the heat on your salsa. This is a medium salsa, so I wouldn't really want to go that far with just my family. My 21-year-old likes really spicy food. My husband and I sort of do. It just depends on the time. Logan not really so much. So again, it's really up to you. But that's about it. So I feel like we should just dive right in. So the trick with this is having two separate bowls. So in bowl, I've got my chicken. This is a little over 2 cups of chicken. The trick is going to be putting the creamy ingredients in one and the dry ingredients in the other, and then combining them before we stuff our enchiladas. So here's the chicken. We're going to put it down. To it, I'm going to add some of the green onion or the scallion. That's going right in. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my corn. Now, corn is definitely a hot topic. I like corn. My husband likes corn. Both of my kids don't like corn. So they usually wind up picking around it. But I usually go ahead and put like 1 frozen container in it. Follow the recipe. If corn's not your jam, don't even use it at all. It's really not that big of a deal either way. Okay, so again, here's the dry ingredients. So far I've got the corn and I've got the green onion. So I'm going to go ahead with this. This is sort of what it's going to look like right now. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my dry ingredients. Now, I kind of know how I like this, but you, again, can be precise and you can use your measuring stuff and do what you need to do. But I'm going to go ahead with my cayenne. I'm going to do about between 1/4 and 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne. This is some good cayenne too. Oregano is really interesting in this. People don't understand that, ooh, that's a lot of oregano. So watch, I didn't put it in. I can put some right back in here. And we're good to go. Dispose of that later. A lot of people don't use oregano when it comes to their cooking, as far as like their Mexican stuff. It really is good. If you can find really good Mexican oregano, I highly recommend that you do it. It's not just for Italian cooking anymore. We got some cumin here. And cumin gives you that nice smoky flavor. I usually go a little bit hard on it. Yeah, I love it. I think it gives that nice back taste to what you're doing. I just think it's great. I actually want a little bit more cayenne, just for me, because I think it would taste good. Now in here, if you were going to add peppers, you could. This is a jalapeno. There are serrano peppers you could use, a whole bunch of other stuff. But I can show you how to cut that up if you would like. Maybe I will. I'll add a little pepper in it today. We're going to make this spicy for us today. I'm sure everybody will be fine. Now, the key with these peppers, people, is that all the heat is in the white seeds in the middle and the pith, which is the white, like, stringy stuff. So if you can wear gloves, I highly recommend it. I don't have them in the house. There's a shortage of them right now. But what you're going to do is you're going to take off the top and you're going to slice right down the middle. Okay? So again, when you're looking at this, all of the heat is right in here. Okay? Do not wipe your nose or anything after this. Do not go to the bathroom after this because you're going to be in big amounts of pain. So you're going to just use the tools that you were given when you were born. And you're going to take out the seeds and the white pith, just like that. And you are going to do stripes. You can see how I take it from the top. I do stripes just like this. Okay? And then I get into claw again, just like with any other cutting. And I chop it into tiny pieces. Okay? And here you go. We're going to add just a little bit of heat. Just a little bit. It's not going to be anything massive. I'm not even going to use a whole one. I just wanted to show you how to cut the pepper. So I think a half is going to be good. So this is what our mixture is looking like right now. This is dry. Okay? The one other thing that I definitely need to put in is I'm going to put some salt and pepper. Now, I keep a salt and pepper blend. If you've seen my other videos, you see that I do 2 parts salt to 1 part pepper. Put it in my little container here, shaky, shaky, and then we're good to go. I keep this everywhere in my house, okay? Salt and pepper, you can always add. You can't take away. Now, you would not use this if you're going to use this taco seasoning. This has so much salt in it, you really don't want to do to add any more in. Wiping my hands. Okay, good. All right, so we're still in the dry. We're doing a great job right now, getting it done. We're going to combine it to the best of our ability here. Just make sure that the chicken looks coated with all of your seasonings. And this is good. That's what we want, okay? Don't worry too much yet. We're going to be combining this with the creamy stuff. Speaking of creamy stuff, let's get on it. Brand new, clean, fresh bowl. It's creamy stuff time. Now, this is where we're going to get together and we're going to try to make the creamiest mixture that we can. And the reason why is because if you really, I'm not okay with it, but if you had not put this to room temperature, you would get really cold chunks of cream cheese in it and it would be like chunky throughout. I just want it nice and smooth. So, you know, again, the recipe called for 4 ounces. This is going to be 8 ounces. Definitely, I like creamy stuff. It's up to you, whatever you want to do. Now, if you are dairy-free, don't worry, okay? You actually could put the salsa and other stuff in there, maybe some dairy-free cheese in here to the dry mixture and wrap it up with that. And it would probably turn out pretty well, as long as you just keep it moist. Part of all of this stuff is to keep it moist. For you so that you don't have really dry enchiladas. Nobody really likes a dry enchilada. Okay, so this is some sour cream. I got another tool here. So I'm just going to go in. It doesn't call for that much sour cream, but again, I want creamy, so I'm going to use about half of a container here. If you really want your own version of it, you know, use my recipe, but then go bananas. Go bananas. Do what you're going to do. Okay, so this is going to be the creaming process here. Now, I wouldn't get out a mixer for this. Some people are like, oh, I'll get out my hand mixer. I just wouldn't. I don't think you really need to do that, and I'm going to show you why in a second. You see how this is creaming together? We still have a few chunkies in here, though, which is okay. Again, it's not the end of the world. It's just not ideal. So I'm going to go ahead and take some of my salsa, and you're going to see the salsa really helps. I'm going to do about a cup of salsa in here just to start. And what it does is it just smooths everything out. I don't know if it's the acidity in it, probably just the liquid in it itself, but it just really breaks apart all those chunks that you have. And it starts looking pretty good. Okay. And again, do the best you can. Scrape, get stuff off the bottom of the bowl, whatever you need to do. Okay. All right. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to keep on rocking and rolling here. Gosh, I can't wait to have these for dinner tonight. All right. I like it extra cheesy. So this is my triple pepper shredded stuff. Again, regular cheddar will work. Any kind of Mexican cheese will work. I put a whole 2 cups in there. Why? Because your girl is cheesy. And I love it. It just makes it melt better. There you go. Now that I'm thinking about it, all this cayenne and I put that jalapeno in, this is going to give us a nice kick tonight. All right, people, we're rocking, we're rolling, we're getting it going. Check that out. This is looking real good. Okay, so here's the trick. You've got the dry. This has the chicken, the corn. It's got the green onions in it, salt and pepper, everything you need. And you've got the creamy over here. Now the trick is to put it together. I'm not going to do it all at once because I really don't want to overload anything. I want to get things coated before I add more stuff in. You know, this is one of those meals that when I ask my husband what it is that he wants for dinner, I think this is probably, this has been his go-to. We'll be married for 22 years at the end of May. And I think I've had this recipe for about 18 of those years. And for 18 years, if I'm like, oh, what do you want? What are you hungry for? He'll tell me this. Because it really just is a crowd pleaser. And this stuff lasts in your refrigerator. I can't tell you how many times this has lasted for lunches the next day. Yeah. And you know, I've actually had an experience where I made it to this point and then I didn't have the tortillas to put it in, and I actually baked it off as a dip. as well. So yeah, there's a pro tip too. There's your dip. Okay. It is mixed. We are looking good. We are ready. So now we got to prep our pan. First of all, what you are going to do is you are going to preheat the oven to 325. Super important. If you're freezing this, make sure it's covered when you put it back in, but you don't have to. If you're just going 325 from here to here, it's 325. But you got to prep your pan because nobody wants stuff sticking to it. I'm going to use a regular oven safe dish, just a glass, almost like a Pyrex dish. And I think I've had this dish since we've been married for 22 years as well. I'm going to use some canola spray, whatever kind of pan spray. Just get it nice and coated. And then I'm even going to take it to the next level. And I'm going to use some salsa. Put a little bit on the bottom and do the shake it up so that it actually kind of coats all the stuff in the bottom of the pan. So it's looking a little bit like that. You want to have that. It just gives you another layer of stuff that it won't stick to the bottom of the pan, and nobody wants that to happen. Let's talk tortillas. Okay, tortillas are going to be your choice for this. I'm going to tell you that corn tortillas don't really wrap that well when it comes to all of this. So let me move this out of the way. So if you came to me and said, what should I do? I would say flour tortillas are going to be the way to go. Now, having said that, what size? Well, in my mind, sorry, that's my dog. Sherman is barking. In my mind, I would use burrito-sized flour tortillas. Burrito gives you a chance to make like a long, skinny enchilada. But if you're in a pinch or this is what you've got in the house, you certainly can go with the smaller size too. So these are kind of like a soft taco size. And this might be good if you're making, for a bunch of kids so that like the portion size isn't too big. Really up to you. But I'm going to use my flour tortillas today that are burrito size. I'm going to use the bigger ones. So I'm going to get them out. Recipe says that you need 16 of them. I don't know about that. I usually overstuff mine. So yeah, you can go with however many you want, stuff them however you want, but I'm going to give you like my go-to here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in the middle, just like this. Once you get a nice amount in the middle, I might even put a little bit more, you're just going to do the tuck. So you're going to fold it over, take your fingers, tuck it in, a tuck and roll. When you place these in the pan, I don't do anything to the sides, you can see. You're going to put seam, this is called the seam, you're going to put seam side down, and it can even wrap around just a little bit like that in your pan. Let me do this again for you. As much as you would love to see me wrap all 8 of these things, I'm fairly certain that would bore you to tears. So I think I'm going to do a couple just to show you. And it's not really that hard to do. This is actually something you could do with your kids pretty simply. I know my boys have helped me before. They're both upstairs doing homework furiously. I've got one working on math. My senior in high school is working on math just to do some retakes and stuff like that. But the other one is working his college stuff at West Virginia. Couldn't tell I had one that went to West Virginia by my hat or anything today, right? Again, tuck and roll and seam side down. Okay? I'm going to go real fast with this. Real fast. What are some of the other things maybe you could stuff in this? I'll tell you, if you wanted to do this with steak, I am very certain that steak would be really good in this. I just like chicken because it takes flavors really, really well. A lot of people like it. And it's kind of easy for me, especially because of the rotisserie chicken aspect of it. I can't tell you what a blessing rotisserie chickens can be to you. Again, I'm being pretty generous with this because I'm using the burrito wrappers. If I was using the smaller ones, I would make sure that there was less in it. You could even do, if you had some pulled pork left over from something, you really could, you could do that too. It would be amazing. And just put that in here, shred it up. I think it would be awesome. So this is my last one. Believe it or not, I was able to wrap it pretty quickly. So hopefully you didn't get too bored while I was doing the wrapping here. Folding it over, tuck and roll, putting it in, and there you go. Some squishes out on the side. It's really not that big of a deal. It's just going to add to flavor at the end. Okay, so here we go. We've got this awesome pan of enchiladas. The oven in your world is going to be preheated to 325, and now we got to work on this. If I were to put this in the oven just like this would be really, really dry, and we don't want that, okay? We want it to be nice and moist. So we are going to need to get our top coated. I'm going to go back to my good friend salsa. And again, you can really pick your favorite salsa. I highly recommend using a pre-made one though for this, just because you saw how much we used. Okay, so I'm going to put the salsa over top, and I'm just going to spread it out. Try to it doesn't have to be a thick coating, because then it might get a little too soggy, but you just want to try and get all of your crevices kind of filled in here a little bit. And if you are a salsa-aholic and you want more salsa on it, please feel free to add that. Okay, no offense to anybody, but I'm going to go with more cheese. I'm using my thick cut cheese right now. Yeah, I can tell you, if there was some lactose intolerance going on in our family, it might be a little sad because we are all cheese eaters. Here we go. You're going to put it up on top, and you can be as generous with it as you want. There are definitely some Mexican melting cheeses that would be really good. This is another full 2 cups. Yeah, I told you I was going hard on the cheese that I'm going to be using here. But you could use queso fresco. Any of the crumbling cheeses I think would work really well. And then here we go. Just some more green onions and scallions to decorate up on top. And you are going to be ready to put this into the oven. Woo! Put that into the oven for 325 for about 30 to 35 minutes, somewhere around there. Check it at 20 just to see, because ovens are different. How you're going to know it's done. See that salsa down there on the side? That stuff's going to be bubbling. You're going to have some charring along the edges up here. And everything is pre-cooked. So even if because look, I even have some of this. Look what I'm going to make. I'm going to make more dip with it. If I took a chip and I went like this right now, I'd be okay because everything is cooked on the inside of it. But yeah, so you just want to make sure everything is melty and bubbly and enjoy it. Really, throw some rice with this, like on the side. You don't even need it. Sometimes we don't even make anything. We just sit here and devour this. But I really hope that you guys are all safe and well at home, and I hope you're cooking it up. And I really would love to hear from you if you like this recipe. Just let me know if there's something else you want to see me make in the kitchen here. I'm trying to do 1 recorded video a week, and I go live with my students once a week as well. But I definitely am excited to be here with you. This is therapy for me. And hopefully you enjoyed it. So check out below. You can see the recipe. And keep on cooking.